Jerry, thanks for your words and your insight. Thanks for helping us look back on what was truly an extraordinarily successful and action-packed year. What a joy it is to be on this bima together with you and with these other leaders of our congregation, with so many others joining us electronically this afternoon. I'm really pleased, Jerry, that you took the time to acknowledge the richness of our programmatic and educational year here at Temple, and to acknowledge as well the skill, dedication, and love of our staff team that makes this extraordinary congregation do all the things that it does with such skill and delight. I also am pleased to have heard your words acknowledging the generosity of so many who have helped with time, talent, and treasure to keep this congregation doing great things for our members and for our entire city. Speaking personally, it is and was and will continue to be the great honor of my life to serve as this congregation's senior rabbi. To do what I can to ensure that Emmanuel remains focused on our primary mission, which is to steward and inspire the moral and spiritual, intellectual, and cultural life of our city. That is the vision toward which our congregation strives every day that we do our work. And it's a vision to which we've remained committed even as the ground under our feet has shifted over the last year or two, during times that have been demanding and difficult, and at other times deeply joyful and affirming. Ours, of course, is not the only religious institution that's been called to do hard thinking and thoughtful strategizing about what spiritual life and sacred community will look like in the future, both short-term and long-term. Our peer organizations across town and throughout the Reform movement have watched with great care and attention as some difficult trends have arisen throughout our nation. Communities have frayed. People have grown distant from each other, stricken by loneliness and isolation as we've made our way through the strange new territory in which we live. Sociologists have observed that people of faith are drifting away from houses of worship. We've tracked the way religious youth movements have weakened, and we've observed the generalized feelings of malaise and fear that at times worm their way into people's hearts across our nation and across our denominational identities. We've watched religious organizations, including those of our own denomination, struggling to bring legacy institutions in line with the demanding ethical standards of our day with tenacity and with grace. But at the same time, these strange days have brought with them feelings of closeness, new passion in people's religious lives. We've seen people growing closer to the religious community, closer to each other, and closer to God during these days of pandemic and isolation. I've lost track of the number of members of our congregation who over the past year have remarked delightedly about how much closer they feel to their temple because they can join in prayer and program, worship, and music from the comfort of their own homes. And it is due in no small part to the hard work of our community, our congregation, our staff and lay volunteers who have worked so hard to make sure that our community can weather this storm together. And now, as Jerry mentioned, we are entering, we pray, the next permanent stage of our community's life together, the time which calls us to come back home. Thanks to the hard work of our COVID task force and our agile, positive, and resourceful staff team, and to all of you for your flexibility and understanding, we are delighted to invite you to come with us together as our schools, our worship life, our programmatic calendar, and our whole community makes its way back into in-person life once again. In the report that I gave during this meeting in 2020, I asked for you to cooperate with me as we made the difficult decisions to compromise some physical togetherness in the name of our collective safety and health. And today, I'm asking for your cooperation again, but this time, I'm asking you to help us by making a different sort of sacrifice. All of us have gotten very comfortable with the convenience of community which is conducted remotely. And in this coming year, I'll be asking for your willingness to compromise a small amount of that convenience in exchange for the warmth and closeness of physical, personal proximity in this space. Thank you in advance for all you will give and all you will do to help us do our sacred work together, side by side. I want to add my words as well to Jerry's in gratitude to the staff team that has worked so closely with me and my team this past year. All of them are extraordinary, capable, and committed people whose professionalism and skill cannot be overstated. I and we are deeply lucky to have them and their service to this place. I also want to add one personal mention as well of thanks to my friend Jason Plotkin. It is always hard to say goodbye to a treasured colleague and a beloved friend, but when a member of our staff team goes on to do bigger and better things, it is a mark of great pride for us. When those who have grown as professionals and as people go on to the next step of their careers. Jason, we know that your new position and your new home will bring you, your congregation, and our whole people great pride and great honor. Jerry, little did you know 2 years ago what your presidency was going to look like. This wasn't what you had anticipated, and I know that it wasn't always what you wanted. Nevertheless, as I have said many times in the past, every generation receives the leader it deserves. And I am so thankful that we deserved you. I can't imagine a better leader to have carried us through these days of our congregation's history. You did so with wisdom, and patience, and compassion. Your vision and your personal example have brought us to this next stage of our congregation's life. I'm so thankful for your partnership and your friendship that have done so. I'm thankful for the board and the committee members who served alongside you in conscientious, responsible, loving, and generous ways. Today, Jerry's leadership culminates in the election of a new slate, a new group of leaders who will join her and follow in her footsteps in leading this holy congregation in its most sacred work from strength to strength. It is now my pleasure to invite Rodney Roth to deliver the report from the nominating committee.